Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this ITE Learning Hub webinar, Women in ITE 2025 Bootcamp Number 1, Interpersonal Effectiveness Tools. My name is Stephen Bird, and I'm the ITE Information Technology Senior Director, and will facilitate today's webinar. Before we get started, I'd like to go over some housekeeping items. There will be a Q&A period at the end of the webinar, during which the presenters will answer participant questions. We do encourage you to type your questions into the questions pod, in this case, the chat, as they occur, and there'll also be a breakout for this one, so you'll be able to discuss those during that. If you wish to receive a PDH credit certificate for your participation in today's webinar, there is a processing fee of $20 regardless of membership status. Today's webinar offers 1.5 PDH credits. We will discuss the full process of receiving the credit at the conclusion of the webinar after the Q&A, so registrants be sure to stick around to receive those instructions. Ways to participate in today's webinar is the chat pod. So you're going to type your questions into the chat pod at the end of the webinar or during the webinar, and we'll try to answer all those questions in the time allotted. Depending on the volume of questions, we may extend the webinar up to 5 minutes. If you have multiple attendees at your site, please have the additional attendees in the room share their questions for you to type in on their behalf. We hope you enjoy today's webinar. Learning objectives for today is understand the Dearman framework and its role in effective communication. Learn how to assert needs clearly while maintaining positive relationships. Discuss applying Dearman framework in real-world scenarios and gain confidence in handling difficult conversations using structured techniques. I am now going to hand it over to Michelle Mecker, who is going to be your moderator for today's webinar.
Hello, I'm Michelle Mecker, member of the Women in IT Committee. Myself and Nalima Ganta are leading this webinar, and just a few things up front. Carla?
Yeah. Thanks, Michelle. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for attending this session today. I am Carla Diaz-Coro, co-chair of the Women in ITE Committee alongside Beth Ostrowski, and we are so excited to kick off the first bootcamp for our 2025 series. Just to tell you a little bit about us, the Women in IT Committee is all about supporting and empowering women in transportation, and we do that through mentorship. We share resources, and we offer opportunities for professional development. And just to tell you more of what we do, we host monthly blogs and bootcamp series like this. So be on the lookout for our next session. You can just type in your browser, Women in IT Committee, and you can check out all the things that we do as a committee. I want to give a big thank you to Michelle and Nalima for putting together an amazing program today. I am so excited for you all to see it. And also, thank you to all the volunteers in our committee who make events like this possible. I also appreciate Stephen and Kathy for all your technical support and planning help. And of course, happy Women History Month. And with that, I'll hand it over to Michelle to get us started.
Thank you, Carla. So before we really jump into the material, we are going to be using Slido for a couple things today throughout this webinar. You can open a browser on your computer or your phone and go to slido.com, and you can enter the event code, or you can just scan this QR code, and that way you can participate in prompts. So I'll give you guys like 30 seconds to log into that. Okay, and I will have that event code available on the Slido slides later on, just in case you get bumped out for some reason or had trouble signing in this first time. So, as Stephen said, the objectives of this webinar are to understand Dear Man and learn how to apply it. But why does interpersonal effectiveness matter? Well, it's effective communication impacts your career growth, team dynamics, leadership, and poor communication can lead to misunderstandings or conflicts, missed opportunities. So Dear Man is a step-by-step process that helps professionals or any individual who wants to use it. It can be applied in everyday life. It helps them advocate for themselves while maintaining positive relationships. So as we go through this webinar, think of times in the past where you struggled to communicate a need, or think of an opportunity coming up where you might need to communicate a need, like some tough discussion that you're having coming up, or maybe something didn't go quite so well in the past, and you can look back and see how this framework might help in the future or have helped in the past. So what exactly is Dear Man? It's a structured approach from DBT, which is dialectical behavior therapy, to communicate assertively. It's just one small piece of that overall theory, that practice. And why we use it, it helps maintain relationships, express needs clearly, set boundaries. And we use it for negotiating, making requests, saying no, handling conflict. And it has 7 steps, one for each letter: describe, express, assert, reinforce, stay mindful, appear confident, and negotiate. And one disclaimer is this does not work on young children. I have tried. So as we go through this, we're going to have a worksheet and scenario, which I will let Nalima introduce.
Thank you, Michelle. If you all got the email with the worksheet, or you printed it out, or you have a soft copy, it's generally a good idea now to like take it out. It should look like the form that you see on the left side of the slide. It just kind of helps you write down your notes and think of a scenario while we are talking about some example scenarios. If you don't have it, please send us a message in the chat and we are happy to put it in there. Let's get started. The scenario. This is actually highly inspired by some real life scenarios. So this is based on actual things that happen. Probably we melded few experiences together. So here you are. You found out that your salary is about 40% less than your colleague who has performance issues. Your boss has moved the other person's projects many times over to you just before a client meeting or public meeting, putting you in a tough spot or a high stress spot. And often you're told that the metric for bonus or annual salary increase is the total value of contracts you won for your company. You have brought in multiple contracts for the team. So for you, this disparity doesn't make sense. So this disparity is actually hurting you, and you made the decision to talk to your manager to hopefully get the compensation you deserve. That's the situation. Back to you, Michelle.
Yeah, so we're going to be using this scenario to sort of help give some more context to each of these steps. And it looks like somebody dropped the worksheet in the chat, but I think we'll also be dropping the worksheet in the chat periodically, just in case people come in later. So the first step in Dear Man is D for describe. This is where we're describing the current situation, if necessary. It's very objective. We stick to the facts, tell the person exactly what you're reacting to, trying not to get emotional or insert opinions or anything at this point, just what literally happened. Like for a home life example, you told me you were going to be home at 7, but you didn't get home until 9. That would be a simple describing the situation. Are we sharing the slides and recording later? I believe so. Stephen, can you answer that one in the chat? Nalima, do you want to do the scenario?
If you're, thank you, Michelle. If you remember the situation, we're going to take the situation, the same situation, and we are going to go through how this person is going to address this, in this case, you who have this scenario, and how you're going to have a conversation with your boss about it. So let's start with the D, just defining or describing the situation factually. one way to do that is, hi, Brian. Thank you for squeezing me in this morning. I've been pulling the cost proposal together for XYZ project. And as you all know, when you pull a cost proposal together, you do have access to, you do look at what everybody makes or the salary rate or something like that, because you're creating that. So that's the background. And that's when you notice a 40% differential between two project managers in our team, the salary paid for two project managers. That's Jane Doe and myself. I wanted to understand the basis of this disparity and see how we can rectify this. Here, as you can see, we didn't really talk about how it made us feel. We just literally said how you got access to this information. Could be many different ways, and you're clearly stating the disparities between this person and that person, and that you would like to resolve it. Let's say the manager says, I was part of promoting you, but I was not around when John Doe was promoted to PM role. So I was not aware of this issue. I can see the reason though. John has about 5 years more industry experience than you. That, let's go to the next slide.
So this will be our first slide out prompt. Just keeping in mind that D describes, sticking the facts. What's the most challenging part for you of describing a situation objectively? Staying neutral and factual without adding emotion, avoiding making assumptions about the other person's intentions, keeping the facts clear and concise without like rambling on about a full backstory, or is it some other aspect of this describing objectively that's hard for you? So it seems like staying neutral and factual without adding emotion is jumping out.
Michelle, let's give the first slide a little bit more time, because probably people are signing up into Slido and
Oh yeah.
24 responses so far.
Yeah, I also have trouble not adding emotion when I'm trying to describe situations.
And I
But
think because you have this and you're preparing ahead of time, I think the emotional part kind of goes away, because you're kind of forced to write it and you have to stay factual. So it's kind of like almost getting it out of your system before you actually have to talk about it, hopefully.
yeah, one of the practical steps of using Dear Man is to write out your descriptions and some of these steps beforehand. Okay, looks like the results have settled out. So most people have trouble staying neutral and factual without adding emotion, followed by keeping the facts clear and concise. Okay. So next step is E for express. This is where you express your feelings and opinions about the situation. Again, you don't want to assume that the other person knows how you feel or assume what their intentions are. So you should be using phrases such as I want instead of you should, or I don't want instead of you shouldn't, or I feel this instead of you're doing this, stuff like that. Or you're, yeah. So Nalima, your example?
Sure. So yourself or the employee could be saying something like this. I understand that this was before your time, promoting the John Doe in this case, but my promotion happened last year under your purview when I was told that the salary increase has to be limited to 5%. I have taken on John's project per your request, including Project XYZ a week before the high profile meeting with the client leadership. Then again, I was asked to troubleshoot the structural design calculations performed by John just a week before a public meeting to find more efficient solutions. I feel that I was able to jump in, work long hours to help the team, and provide technical expertise when we were in a bind. Knowing that my time is worth 40% less than John feels like an insult to me. But your feelings, everything is focused on your feelings. The manager could say something like this: helping your teammates is what we expect from all of us. And I appreciate that you're doing that. as a PM, you need to treat access to salary information with a lot of responsibility. Using that information to compare yourself to others is not what I expect from my project managers. Again, John has 5 years more in the industry, which is the main factor for determining his salary. Again, he or she is talking about you had access to salary information, but you're using it incorrectly. So they're focusing on something else, which may make you feel a certain way. So that's, yeah.
So for this Slido prompt for Express, this is less of a poll. And which phrase do you think would best express your feelings effectively in some sort of scenario? I feel frustrated when I put in extra work and it goes unnoticed. You never appreciate my work. It's really upsetting when I don't get the recognition I expect. I hate how this always happens to me. Oh, we're just waiting for the next Slido screen. There we go. Seems like that first one, I feel frustrated when I put in extra work and it goes unnoticed, is the standout. I'll give it a few more seconds.
I have to say, our participants are on it. We're getting really good participation.
Yeah, so jumping into those, we pegged that first response as the most effective. The response of "it's really upsetting when I don't get the recognition I expect" is emotionally valid, but kind of vague, so maybe not as effective as you would like. The second one, "you never appreciate my work," is more blaming, and then the last one is too much of an overgeneralization to really be effective. The next step, A, is assert. So assert yourself by asking specifically for what you want or saying no clearly. Don't assume that others will figure out what you want. Remember that others can't read your mind. So this is like, instead of telling my husband, "Hey, would you like to do the dishes?" No, can you do the dishes? I would like you to do the dishes is as more of an assert step. But in a professional example, Lima.
Remember where we left off? The manager just said you have to treat access to information responsibly. This is what I expect from my PMs, and the other person has 5 years more experience. So now you're responding to that. You're asserting your position again by saying, this is confusing me a little bit. I'm not thrilled that I must negotiate my salary using another team member. However, when I was promoted, team equity was stated as the limitation to my salary increase. I'm extremely loyal to our team and I enjoy working with our team. So I didn't press too hard. I have brought in multiple key contracts for our team, in addition to taking over projects per your request. I worked hard to turn around these projects within scope, schedule, and budget. On the other hand, the entire team is aware of John's performance issues. Unfortunately, this does not seem fair to me. How can we fix this? You're bringing in your main point. And then the manager says, "You're a great asset to the team, and I can see how you feel. We just passed the merit increase window. Happy to revisit this next merit increase window." And the employee saying, "The next merit window is not for another 9 months, which is too long for me to accept the way things are or status quo."
So we're making sure we're asking specifically for what we want. And so Slido prompt for this is, what do you think is the best way to phrase a clear request about workload? I'd like to discuss my workload to ensure fairness. Can you fix this? I need to have fewer projects or additional support. And you need to stop giving me extra projects. So I will bring that back onto the screen. Stephen?
It should be on there.
Uh, hmm.
It's still on the old one, Steve.
Move your Slido screen just a little bit to the right. Let me see something real quick. Get this.
Oh, there you go.
There. Not sure what's going on.
Yeah, so it seems like I'd like to discuss my workload to ensure fairness is coming out on top, but I need to have fewer projects or additional support is also getting some support as well. So we pegged the first one, we think is flexible but a little vague. Whereas we think the third one is more specific. I need to have fewer projects or additional support, but either one is valid. Whereas the second one, can you just fix this, is way too vague, and you need to stop giving me extra projects sounds a lot more like a demand than the other ones. Next, we have R for reinforce. This is where we reinforce or reward the person ahead of time by explaining positive effects of what we want or need. Alternatively, if necessary, we could clarify the negative consequences of not getting what we want. So sometimes I tell my son, oh, you will get an extra book if you go brush your teeth right now instead of fighting me on it. And the main tip here is to remember that rewarding desired behavior after the fact also works. Positive reinforcement works on adults, not just dogs and toddlers.
And in this example, I think we focused on talking about the negative consequence of not getting what you're asking for. But the extra book also makes sense. That's positive reinforcement, whereas in this case, you're talking about the consequences of not taking an action. So in this example, the employee is saying, I have been approached by recruiters and some of our clients with opportunities. So you're saying, kind of, that I have other places I can be. I have started 3 critical projects with our core clients over the past 6 months and would like to deliver success for our company. I hope you're able to find a way to address this issue so these projects will not be disrupted. I will set up a check-in time for the end of this week so you can have some days to work with HR on this issue. The manager says, I don't want to lose you, but HR doesn't entertain salary adjustments mid-year. I sent you to a conference a few years ago. That's a perk. Not everything looks like a salary increase. Obviously, the manager is coming up with quite a few things to say to push you back. But again, stay course. Michelle?
Yeah, so with that in mind, which of these is a good reinforcement statement? If I get the support I need, I can continue delivering strong results. If this doesn't change, I'll have no choice but to leave. I appreciate when my work is recognized. It motivates me to do my best. Or I just don't see the point in putting in effort anymore. This one's looking a bit more evenly split. With if I get the support I need, I can continue delivering strong results, being on top, followed by I appreciate when my work is recognized. It motivates me to do my best. And then if this doesn't change, I'll have no choice but to leave. So there's actually a few good answers in here. If I get the support I need, I can continue delivering strong results. Might be more comfortable for more assertive people. Whereas the other green one, that I appreciate when my work is recognized, that might be more comfortable for more passive people. But both are valid. And then if this doesn't change, I'll have no choice to leave is fair. But it's also high stakes. So use this cautiously, or other similar ultimatums, unless you're prepared to follow through on them. And then the last one, I just don't see the point. It really undermines your credibility in this whole process.
Michelle, I think if you go back one slide, some of these examples are actually on the slide of intensity, which we'll get to at the end, right? If this is a high stakes situation and you don't risk this relationship, like this is really important to you, which we'll get to in the later case in a few more slides. Some of these are valid to say, but it's a high stakes situation when you want to use that yellow response.
Yeah. So the next step, M, is for stay mindful. This is where we stay focused on our goals, maintain your position. Don't get distracted. Don't let yourself get pulled off a topic. People might try to divert you away from the conversation, stuff like that. So some tips are be a broken record. Just keep asking or saying no, or expressing your opinion over and over and over. And also ignore attacks, like personal attacks, threats, comments, or other attempts to divert you. Because if you waste time responding to those attacks, you're just getting pulled away from your point. So just try to ignore distractions and keep making your point.
If you all remember in the last at R, one of the last things that the manager said is, we sent you to this conference, so not all perks look like salaries. So that is an example of a distraction. Don't go down the rabbit hole, address it really quickly, but get back to the broken record. What do you want? For example, I was selected as a panelist in that conference since I'm considered a subject matter expert in this area. Our company policy states that presenters do not need approval to attend conferences if they are selected to present. That panel opportunity actually helped us, helped me as well as the company equally, and it helped me with the latest win of the contract. I understand your limitations. However, the current situation is not acceptable to me. It is a constant reminder that being highly skilled, collaborative, creative, and innovative with year after year high performance rating is somehow valued less in this team. It shows that my time is worth less than others in this team with the same job description, however, with performance issues. How can I accept that? Okay. And the manager, I think this falls, what the manager is saying falls in the attack thing, I think. It is not professional to compare yourself to others. Access to salaries comes with responsibility, and you misused it. Someone will always get higher pay than you. You can't keep chasing that. You'll never be happy. Again, don't go down the rabbit hole and hold on to your own. The employee is saying, it is unfortunate that you feel that way. I've been very loyal to this company and to our team for a decade now. I would like to be compensated fairly for my expertise. I look forward to hearing from you at the end of the week after your conversations with HR or upper management. So do your best not getting pulled into anything else and stay focused on what you want. Michelle.
Mm-hmm. So how do you handle deflections in a conversation? You repeat your main point calmly if the conversation gets off track. You defend yourself and explain why their argument is unfair. Maybe you acknowledge their point, then redirect back to your goal. Or do you let the conversation shift if the other person seems upset? I know personally I'm I'm naturally conflict avoidant, so my instinct is to let the conversation shift if the other person seems upset.
I think I'm Michelle. I run into like, if they send me off track, I go off track. And I completely get distracted and go into that rabbit hole. So let's see where our audience stands.
Yeah, it sounds like most people agree that acknowledging their point and then redirecting back to your goal is the best way to handle deflections in a conversation. Yeah, so we said, yeah, acknowledge their point, then redirect, or the repeat your main point calmly are both valid ways to handle deflections. Whereas the other two, defending yourself or letting the conversation shift, is exactly the opposite, that you're letting the conversation get off track. Next, we have A for appear confident. This one might be more difficult for some people than others, but you want to appear effective and competent. So you want to use the confident voice and physical manner, make good eye contact, no stammering, whispering, staring at the floor, retreating, etc. You want to appear like you know what you're talking about and you know what you want.
This one is harder said than done. I'm generally not conflict avoidant, but I really struggle on the spot. So that's where preparation comes in. Writing this ahead of time, you're forced to think of, if they say no, what are, to appear confident, what are the things that you could say? So that helps kind of jog your memory and kind of talk about all your accomplishments or whatever shows that you're confident, you know what you're worth. For example, in this case, the employee saying, as you know, I've been presenting at National Peer Exchange on road safety in Portland until Thursday. So you're kind of indirectly, or rather directly, saying that, hey, I'm an SME, I'm a subject matter expert, I'm being requested to present in this National Peer Exchange, and I'll be there until this Thursday in Portland. Our clients, David and Maya, are attending this, and it'll be a great opportunity for me to connect with them and also resolve the issues that we talked about. So it looks like they've had some issues on this contract that the manager, Brian, is aware of. And you're also saying that because I have this invite, I get to talk to these people outside of, the constraints of, we over a dinner or a coffee. So you're kind of saying it like, this is something I don't think I can say on the spot. Preparation helps. So then you're saying, when I'm back on Friday from this summit or peer exchange, we can talk about this. And the manager is saying, well, HR is out of office, so this will not work. I'll need time to check the budget. So they're not really giving you any answer. They're leaning towards where you want, but they're not really giving you anything. So that's where we are.
Yeah, so what are signs of confidence in communication? Select all that apply, maintaining eye contact, speaking. I think that's supposed to be confidently and clearly, but I put clearly and clearly. Avoiding conflict by agreeing with the other person, avoiding filler words like like, or like I just said. So apparently everyone likes the speaking clearly and clearly. But also maintaining eye contact, avoiding those filler words. I know I personally have a lot of trouble maintaining eye contact. There's that joke, how do you tell an introverted engineer from an extroverted engineer? The extroverted engineer is looking at your shoes, not their own. So Yeah, so avoiding conflict by agreeing with the other person, that's not exuding confidence, that's just people pleasing. And then lastly, we have step N, negotiate. Be willing to give to get, offer and ask for other solutions to the problem, reduce your request for a sort of an intermediary solution. Or if somebody's asking you to do something, you could say no, but offer to do something else or to solve the problem another way. A tip here is to turn the tables, turn the problem over to the other person, ask for other solutions. Like, what do you think we should do? It kind of gives them a bit more investment in this conversation.
This one, I think, really depends on the intensity that we'll learn a little bit later. Like how the amount you will negotiate depends on how non-negotiable the situation is for you. For example, if somebody was abusive or something, then for some people, at least for me, that's non-negotiable. Like I cannot wait 10 weeks for you to take action. Something has to change now. Versus there are other situations where giving a little bit more is okay. So in this case, with the salary scenario, the employee is saying, I understand about the HR being out of office. Why don't you propose a timeline that works for you? And then the manager is saying, how about mid next week or the end of next week? The employee, given the choice, is saying, mid next week seems like a fair compromise. I'm looking forward to a discussion. Remember earlier, the employee said by Friday. Now, when the manager said mid next week or the following week, they chose mid next week. Back to you.
Yep. So last slide of prompt for the steps is, what's an example of a fair compromise, do you think? I understand your concerns. Can we visit this in 3 months instead of waiting 9? Fine, I guess I'll just have to deal with it. I'll take on the extra project, but I'd like to discuss a bonus or time off in exchange. If I don't get what I want, I'll quit immediately. Oh, there we go. So far it seems like the standout is the revisiting in 3 months instead of 9, or I'll take on the extra project, but maybe we can do a bonus or time off. And there are still a few people who would use the ultimatum of I'll quit if I don't get what I want, which maybe they're in a situation where that ultimatum is reflective of the intensity of the situation. Before we move forward, were there any like quick comments or questions?
Do you want them to put them in the chat, Michelle?
I guess. I know we just went through a lot of stuff all at once, so.
Maybe they're all thinking we can just finish the poll and then wait for the responses.
Yeah. This is what the results ended up at. And I don't see anything coming in the chat just yet, but yeah, so those, yeah, I understand your concerns or the extra project are good. Whereas the fine, I guess I'll have to deal with it, is it's not actually negotiating. Whereas the other one is that the ultimatum, like I talked about. So before using these skills, you really should decide what you want. So we've talked about like different levels of intensity. You should also think about what's most important to you when you're going into using Dear Man. Do you want to get what you want from someone, like a specific results? What are you willing to do to get those results? What will work? Maybe you want to get what you want, but you're more, you have a higher priority of keeping and improving the relationship. Maybe it's a coworker that you really want to or need to get along with. So you're concerned with how the other person will feel about you after the interaction, and what do you have to do to keep this relationship. And then lastly, maybe you're more concerned with keeping or improving self-respect. How do you want to feel about yourself after the interaction is over? What do you have to do to feel about that way about yourself? And what will work? William, any comments on this? Thanks, Ad. Yeah, so you should understand which of these is most important to you in that specific situation. And these will inform what level of intensity you're going to be applying Dear Man. And so, Millie, I believe we turn this over to Carla and Jody, or do you want to give an introduction?
Sure, I can. Again, we kind of touched on this throughout the example. It really depends on the situation. And again, as the previous slide, Michelle was saying, how do you want to feel about yourself? How important is this relationship to you? For example, if this is a conflict with your spouse, I'm sure in most cases you don't want to give ultimatum, right? Maybe not. Whereas if it's with somebody that it's a low stakes situation, it's different. So we have some really fun examples. We're going to turn it over to Carla and Jody or Ashley.
Thank you, Nilima. So just like Nilima was saying, we're going to walk through a few real world scenarios using the Dear Man technique that we just learned. These situations will range in intensity from everyday workplace challenges to even high stake conversations. As we act them out, how about you would take some notes and maybe have some thoughts for discussion later on the breakout sessions. And a little disclaimer here, these are just examples. We are not necessarily saying that they're the only right way to respond to situations. So in these scenarios, I will be acting out as the employee, and then Jody will be my manager. So are you ready, Jody? We can get started with level 1. In this scenario, using the Dear Man, we're going to don't ask and don't hint. And the way we respond is that we do what the other person wants without being asked. Ready, Jody?
Okay, ready.
Awesome.
Intensity level 1. You've been doing great work this year.
Thanks. I appreciate the opportunities I've had.
I recently noticed the disparity in pay within our team. I recognize your dedication and hard work. I want to make sure you're properly compensated for it. I'll be working with HR to bridge that gap and get you to where you need to be as soon as possible.
Thank you so much. That was an example of scenario number 1. If you notice, the employee had no mention of salary at all. How about we make it a little more intense, Jody? Let's do intensity level 3.
All right.
Okay. Hi, Jody. I heard salaries in our field has been raising. Have we adjusted pay scales lately?
I don't think so, Carla, but I can check.
Yeah, because that would be really good to know.
I understand this is important to you. While I'm not sure if HR can consider it mid-year, I'll make sure to take your request to HR and see what options are available. I'll get back to you soon.
Okay. In this scenario, we don't push for an actual raise, if you notice. Okay, I feel like we can get a little more intense in here in the conversation, and we can apply what we just learned with Dear Man. So how about we try intensity level 5? Hi, Jody. I would like to talk to you about a possibly salary adjustment, because given my contribution this year, I feel like I deserve it.
Unfortunately, we're not giving raises right now.
I understand, and I appreciate the time if you can look into it.
I see how important this is to you, but I prefer making all salary adjustment requests during the end of the year performance discussions. As you know, mid-year salary adjustments impact team budgets for the year. I'll bring your request to HR and let you know what comes of it.
And that's a very short conversation. And remember, both of us, the employee and the manager, we are applying the Dear Man techniques in these scenarios. Let's get to an interesting level, level 7. In this level, the Dear Man is going to ask confidently and resist an answer that says no. But then the way to respond is that you say no firmly and you and say no confidently, excuse me, and then you resist to saying yes, something that typically is very difficult to accomplish. So intensity level 7. Hi, Jody. Given my impact on recent projects, I would like to discuss a raise.
Hey, Carla. Yeah, I've looked into it, and unfortunately, given the current budget constraints and company policies, we won't be able to approve salary increases right now. I know it's disappointing, but it's just not feasible.
I understand that budgets are tight, but I would love to explore options for aligning my compensations when it comes to my contributions to the company.
As I said earlier, we aren't offering raises this year.
Okay. And in this scenario, as you notice, we're starting to push back, but we're still remaining a little flexible in our answers and the ways we ask for things and respond to things. Finally, we've gotten to intensity level number 9. And in this one, using the Dear Man technique, we're going to ask firmly, we're going to insist, negotiate, and keep trying. As we respond, we're going to try to say no firmly, we're going to resist to those asks, learn techniques to negotiate, and just like the way we ask, we're going to keep trying. So intensity level 9. Jody, I've exceeded my expectations and I've taken on leadership roles in different organizations. I'd like to talk about a raise and also reflect on my contributions to the company.
Okay, Carla. After reviewing your request with HR, I have to let you know that we won't be able to offer any salary increases at this time. I know it's disappointing, and I'm happy to discuss ways we can support your career growth in the future going forward.
Understood, Jody, but is this something we can discuss maybe in a performance-based raise in 6 months? Or maybe we can even explore a bonus structure.
Let me restate that we are not giving raises this quarter, but maybe we could readdress this in 6 months.
Sounds good. In this very last intensity level, we learned that you can negotiate alternatives as you saw the employee doing it. And also from the manager perspective, they were resisting, but open to negotiate as well. We hope you enjoy this very quickly level of intensities that we try to demonstrate on the Dear Man. And with that, I will turn it over back to Michelle and Nalima.
Thanks, guys. That was awesome. Yeah, so you can take a look at this list and use it to help you gauge what level of intensity you're going to ask someone for something or to respond, particularly to say no to something. And using that along with what your objectives are, whether it's getting what you want, keeping a relationship, or maintaining your self-respect. Use those to shape how you use Dear Man.
I'll just add one thing, Michelle. While I was trying to write the scenario examples for all of this, I realized that all of us have some default limits. I couldn't even figure out how to write don't ask, don't hint, where you don't even ask for what you want, you don't even hint at it. Like, how do you even do that? So I'm saying that to tell everyone that all of us may have a range from, like, I may be like 4 to 8%, you may be 1 to 5%, but that's okay. Yeah, something that I didn't know about myself.
Okay, so we're going to start moving into small group breakouts. Some of us in the Women in IT will be acting as leaders in these groups to help sort of guide discussion. But the goal here is to practice or discuss using Dear Man in real world scenarios. So we want you to think of and share your own scenario. or Dear Man approach with your group if you're comfortable. You could discuss what was or seems easy or challenging to you as part of this whole process. And then feel free to add any helpful notes or feedback to your worksheet, even if it's incomplete right now, that might help you for later. And as I said, the facilitators will help guide the discussion. And there's some discussion prompts that they will have access to help move conversation along. So with that, I will let Stephen break us out into groups. I think he's working on it.
Yeah, for the there you go. Hang on.
Stephen, can you put me in group 3? You put me in 1 at first.
Yeah, it auto assigned to everyone. It didn't let me choose to say
Sorry.
certain people couldn't go to certain ones. So let's see. Ashley, you're supposed to go to where? All right.
Ashley's in 5.
All right. I'm working on it here. Ashley. You should actually see. You should be going to 5. Okay, you're there.
We'll give people a few more seconds to come back from breakout rooms. Looks like we might have dropped a few people as we went, but I hope everybody got something out of the discussion and stuff. Malima, you wanted to handle the closeout slides?
Sure. Can you go to the next one, Shel?
Yep. Mhm.
Thank you. This kind of frames, I just wanted to give all the facilitators a minute to share anything that was an aha moment for them or something that we may have missed. For example, when I asked the question in my group, what is the hardest part of this whole technique? One of them actually said to remember to use it. So that I thought was like spot on. So I just wanted to share that. But here, let's get to each of the techniques and what do you feel is the hardest for you?
We're getting a pretty even spread. I know in my group, negotiate and assert kind of came out as some of the hardest. And negotiate and assert are kind of fighting for top spot, followed by appear confident, stay mindful, describe, express. It's interesting to me that nobody picked reinforce, but I guess it's relatively easy to reward people for.
That's it. That's interesting. In my group, actually, they said handling pushback was, which is kind of like reinforcing your position when they're trying to like, go elsewhere was hard.
Mm,
So maybe by the end of the discussion, they all felt like they could do it.
mm. Okay.
How are we doing on time? We're supposed to end at 3:30, right?
Yeah, we're at about 120 right now, so I think we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that is I thought maybe Michelle, is there anything you want to share from your breakout session?
Um, it was kind of quiet, but we talked about how sometimes it was hard to judge whether we felt we were being pushy, um, or assertive enough. Like, what's that boundary about asking for things, and stuff. And also just like sometimes you could use Dear Man uh in a situation and maybe it's not successful. It's not an always successful thing. It's just a process that increases your chances for success.
That's a great point. I also got that expressing confidence and showing, like, knowing that you're worth it is something that could be a struggle. Carla or anybody?
Yeah. So I'll be happy to share in our group. The frequency of negotiating, that was a common theme across the most challenging from the Dear Man. And another part was the staying mindful, knowing your audience. That was one of the main takeaways that we had. And also putting yourself in their position as you're communicating to them. That was another thing that we were talking about. And something very interesting is that most of the people in my breakout room, they were saying that in-person communication seems to be something, well, it's more like to the personal level. When it comes to virtual meeting, conversations can go a little easier, right? Because you're not directly in front of the person. So having that in-person communication, just feel more connected to who you're talking to. And then I'm going to look all my notes so I don't forget anything. The communication styles, we talked about that, and something very interesting someone shared with us was to match the speaking patterns of the person they were talking to when it comes to adjusting to communication styles. It seems to be very effective when it comes to that. So yeah,
My husband
that's
Pretty cool.
copies accents.
oh yeah. Yeah. So that's what we were talking about in our group.
Yeah, and the in-person thing, that's really interesting because whenever we have I have to have a complex conversation, I insist that whether I'm asking my superior that I meet them in person because I can read them more than just their voice. I can see their body language. It just helps me be at ease more. So
Absolutely.
and
Yes.
love the matching the pattern of
Me
that.
too.
I need to think about that
Mm-hmm.
and gain some accents here. Ashley.
Yeah, so one of the things that actually got brought up in our group is so we talked about face-to-face communication, either in person or virtual, but then we also talked about how communication styles can be over IM or emails and keeping that in mind as well when you're communicating. So we sort of went a little communication route, which is, this follows within that. And then great piece of advice that someone shared that I've heard before is, if you get an email that you're not thrilled about, or the tone feels not pleasant, or it's very intense, it was that high intensity number 10 category, to wait 24 hours or as long as you need to provide a lower intensity response back, and to not match the energy there if it's not needed. So it was a good conversation.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And thanks to Michelle, she actually showed me how to use ChatGPT for different intensities for the same situation. We were playing around with that to come up with examples. And that's how I could come up with some of the scenarios that are totally out of my comfort zone. So if you ever feel like if you're the person writing the email and it feels like, what if this is too curt? Like there are resources now. So check out ChatGPT and I'm actually saying, can you write this more politely? And I just paste what I want, and it definitely is more polite than me.
I've done the responses to our viewers.
I think we, Jody, who else was in rooms? Anybody else wants to share something? We only have 2 minutes, then we'll have to close it.
Sure. Yeah, I'll talk for just a second. A lot of what our group kind of focused on was focusing on what you want, as you go into the conversation and preparing more. So we talked about how kind of keeping self-respect seems to be a constant in every situation, and then sometimes it's whether you want to get something from someone or whether you want to keep the relationship. And we talked about how we're going to have to really kind of study this because it's a lot to digest and take it all in such a quick, hour and a half session. So there was a lot of thankfulness for the worksheet and the completeness of the worksheet. So great job to both of you.
Thank you. Yep, this is based on our own experience of digesting information and making it easier for the others. So I'm glad it worked out. Anybody else, any other group leaders I'm missing? We have 1 minute for feedback. Okay.
Okay. Anyone? I'm not sure if this word cloud is working correctly, but
Oh.
yeah.
So this is supposed to be a word cloud, like if everybody can put in a word and okay.
Yeah, it's supposed to be what's your biggest takeaway from the session. But if it's not working, that's also fine.
Okay.
Oh,
somebody's typing.
There we go.
It's coming through.
Oh yeah, prepare. Can you go lay down? Sorry, dog. Yeah, staying focused on what you want, open-minded, reward before and after, stick to the facts of the big one, appear confident, art of negotiation, persistent, dear man, reinforcing. Remove emotion. Prepare goals.
For removing emotion, talking with somebody like a friend the day before, just yelling and like letting it all out really helps.
Talk about it to someone else and then go in. Yeah. Well, you guys can keep filling this out and stuff, and we'll move on to some of the closeout stuff. So.
Okay. I think the biggest thing I want to ask everybody is think of one situation, whether it's with your partner, somebody, your roommate, it could be your manager, your peer, it could be a super low stakes situation. It's about practicing this once before you forget this 1.5 hour intense session we had. That's been our our experience, that try to use it in the next 1 week. Super low stake situation is also fine. So I want you all to take the next 1 minute, think of one situation that you're struggling with now and write it down on your worksheet.
Or on a post-it note or something, yeah. Yeah.
That'll be a big win if you're able to come up with something.
Yeah, because the key to this and other DBT skills is practice.
Right. Awesome. Can go to the next one.
Yeah.
Thank you to yeah.
Sorry, you go.
Okay, doesn't matter. We both worked together. Thank you to Michelle, first of all. She's the one who brought this idea, and this is truly teamwork. We all dissected it. We all tried to figure out how to make this easier and how to fit it in 1.5 hours to make it easier for others. But we all agreed on one thing, that this is very, very helpful, and wish we had this technique few years ago. So I hope you all take that. Thank you so much, Kathy, for keeping us on course and keeping us organized. And your meeting minutes were extremely helpful. Everybody on the team, Carla, Jody, for your wonderful feedback on telling us, oh no, that's too intense. Like, I think that's too much. Let's keep it here. So I appreciate everybody's feedback and being present and helping us make this a success. And Stephen, it worked out flawlessly. Thank you so much for your technical support. There's your QR code. Please scan it to get your PDH, as Stephen suggested earlier. That's all, guys. 2 minutes, back to you.
Yeah, well, Stephen, are we missing anything?
That's all. We'll just leave that up for a few moments so they can get that scan for the PDH. Appreciate it.
And then if anybody had any questions that they wanted to put in the chat, we can answer some. Otherwise, thanks for attending, you guys.